Elaine finished editing the copy of the moments, and deliberately added a few shy expressions to the back, and then opened the location of Thompson, and clicked Sent happily. When this was posted, many people immediately liked and commented. The message was all kinds of admiration, catering, kneeling and licking, marveling at how luxurious her mansion is. After all, no one thought that Elaine could live in a top-notch villa of more than $1 billion, which is beyond the understanding for everyone who knew her. At this time, the Wilson family was boiling cabbage around a pot of duck racks, eating bitter tears. The Lady Wilson herself did not lose the money, and was quite dissatisfied with Noah and his children's contradictions yesterday, so she also deliberately wanted to toss them. So, she went out to buy vegetables in the morning, only bought a duck rack, and then bought 2 Chinese cabbage, washed and chopped directly, and simmered in a pot. She felt that, anyway, she was old, had a small appetite, and couldn't eat anything that was too meaty and greasy, so she put this kind of clear soup and watery things. As for the 3 of them, they would like to eat or not, and would not eat it. Noah, Harold, and Wendy were almost exhausted. The 3 of them couldn't make up the money for a meal, so they could only eat this stuff with the Lady Wilson at home. The duck frame looked not small, but it was all bones, and there was no meat at all. The bone skull in front of Harold says, he had already eaten a lot, but it just didn't fill his stomach. Annoyed, he ate while scanning the circle of friends. Suddenly he saw the one sent by Elaine, and after a closer look, he gritted his teeth and threw the chopsticks off his head. He cursed, "Grass! Elaine, a shrew, has actually moved into Thompson's first product. Damn, she too. Is it worthy of Thompson's first product? God is blind." When the Lady Wilson heard this, she picked up her mobile phone and took a look, and she was suddenly angry. This damn dog thing, specifically said that there are 10 bedrooms, can't live in all of them. This is deliberately to tell me. Old Mrs. Wilson was extremely uncomfortable, and she cursed in her heart that she couldn't give her a room out of so many rooms and let her live in it. Now she is still sending out intentionally to irritate her. It is really 1,000 cuts that she will not understand her hatred. At this time, Noah also looked at the mobile phone circle of friends, looked at the photos of the mansion sent by Elaine, and then looked at the duck rack in front of him and boiled cabbage. He was so angry that he couldn't eat anymore, and directly pulled Elaine into the blacklist. Out of sight, out of mind. Wendy also has Elaine's WeChat friends, and she opened a glance and was also very angry. Seeing the emotions of these 3 people, the Lady Wilson was a little depressed, and said hurriedly, "Don't care about the things Elaine sent. She will have to be driven out of the villa within a few days." After speaking, she cleared her throat and said, "Our top priority is to think about how to make the Wilson Group overcome the difficulties and regain its vitality." Noah said angrily, "What difficulties have you overcome? Tens of millions of debts must be solved? What can be done? This villa is so old, I think it can sell at most 178 million, and the remaining holes will be repaid. It's big." After he finished speaking, he looked at Mrs. Wilson with some complaints, and said, "The antiques that Dad left behind can be sold for tens of millions, right? If you want me to say, Mom, you might as well give me all those antiques. I sell them for real. And then go to buy a house. After the bank takes the villa away, you can still have a place to live." Old Mrs. Wilson said with a cold face, "Buy a house? Do you think I can live there if you buy a house? I can't pay my debts. I might go to jail. I'm already this old. If I go to jail, I will pay and come out alive?" Noah plucked up the courage and said, "Mom, even if the court sentenced you to jail one day, Harold and Wendy and I have this money. We can live a stable life anyway, but if you don't take these antiques out, you once in prison, the 3 of us will starve to death outside." "Starve to death?" Old Mrs. Wilson said coldly, "You 3 have hands and feet. Even if you go to sweep the street, you can't starve to death. I tell you, Noah, the batch of antiques left by your father is my share. Don't think about it." Noah couldn't hold back his anger. He stood up quickly, and said coldly, "The things my dad left behind are for our children and grandchildren. Why, you're alone." Old Mrs. Wilson said coldly, "Why? Are you going to rebel?" Okay, just call me, bark my teeth, I'm dead. None of you want to know where the antiques are. Nothing. As she said, the Lady Wilson snorted and sneered. Anyway, I am an old woman. She has long enough to live, and it doesn't matter if I die now. Before I die, I will definitely make a will to donate my life insurance. I won't give you any points. The three of you will suffer at that time. If the Wilson family collapses and I die, even if the three of you don't go to the streets to beg for food, you will be reduced to the bottom of the society, and your hard days will be early. When Noah heard this, he immediately persuaded himself. He has no choice. There is really no way. Lack of money and no ability to make money is the biggest problem for him and his pair of children. If the Lady Wilson is really dead and the life insurance is also donated, he will have no hope. So he could only suppress his anger and humbly said, "Mom, I am in a rush. Don't be like me." Old Mrs. Wilson snorted coldly, and said arrogantly, "This is pretty much the same." At this time, several bank and court cars suddenly stopped at the entrance of Wilson's villa. A large number of law enforcement officers in uniforms and several bank managers quickly came to the door and banged the door.